the past, Clinton County, Missouri was the western edge of the United States. Situated between two emerging cities, Kansas City and St. Joseph, Clinton County benefited from their growth. The Pony Express, the Gold Rush, and Western migration brought people through the county, but the population that settled here put it on the map. Plattsburgh became the beef capital of the world. Lathrop was a major supplier of mules for the Boer Wars and World War I. 5 railroads crisscrossed the county, and the nation's first north-south highway ran through Cameron, Plattsburgh, and Trimble on its way to Kansas City. Clinton County was home to David Rice Atchison, president for a day, James Harvey Birch, Missouri Supreme Court judge, Willis J. Wynn, president of the Cleveland Federal Reserve, and James Marshall, early leader of the Manhattan Project. Here are more family histories of Clinton County.
My name is Donna Carter Howard, and I'm giving a presentation on the Carter family that moved here to Plattsburgh, Missouri in the early 1800s. My great-great-grandfather, Martin Luther Carter, was born in Prince William, West Virginia on January 29, 1829. He is believed to be the son of Rodham Carter, born in 1806. There is no name recorded of his mother, and we haven't found any info of him, of his family. Martin Luther married Martha Jane Morgan in July of 1851, and they moved to Missouri and settled on the old homestead place 4.5 miles southwest of Plattsburgh. Per his obituary, he was a man of wonderful energy, fine moral character, and a noble Christian spirit. We assume he was a farmer, and by careful management he amassed a considerable tract of land which he divided up between his 4 living children. He was a member of the First Baptist Church for 50 years. He and his wife's name is in one of the stained glass windows at the First Baptist Church in Plattsburgh, Missouri. There were 6 children born to Martin and Martha, and Martin Luther died February 25, 1900 at his home on Broadway in Plattsburgh, Missouri. Their 3rd son was Samuel Luther Carter, who was my great-grandfather. He was born August 28, 1865 on the farm. He married Polly Clark in January of 1884, and 3 children were born to Sam and Polly: James Luther, Almeda, and Raleigh. We assume that Samuel was also a farmer. Their youngest son, Raleigh, was my grandfather, and he was born February the 13th, 1888. He married Susie Smith on June 10th, 1908, and they lived and farmed on his father's home place 2.5 miles west of Plattsburgh. In his early years, Raleigh made harness and was also a blacksmith. He raised hogs and chickens and cows and always had horses. There wasn't much of anything Raleigh couldn't repair or make when the need arose. He taught his grandsons to braid leather and make bullwhips, and also how to strip bluegrass. He was a master at working on a wood lathe as well. He could also carve unique items out of wood. One particular item that I have seen was a wood chain with an open box on the end with a wood ball in the box, and my brother has that one today. Raleigh's loving traits and skilled hands were passed down to his children. Raleigh and Susie had 3 children: Martin Luther, Helen Elizabeth, and Raleigh Jr. Raleigh Sr. was the best grandfather any child could ever have. He passed away on March 27, 1961. The eldest son was Martin Luther, was my father, and he was born on May the 11th, 1914. He married Lois Thacker on April 24, 1941. And 3 children were born to this union: William Raleigh, Donna Jean, and Martin Eric. After serving in the Army Air Corps, Luther and Lois moved to Plattsburgh in 1946 and resided on Maple Street at the extent of their married life. Luther did not want to farm, so he used his skills taught to him by his dad and opened a welding and repair shop on 2nd Street with his cousin Donald Carter in 1950. After a few years, Luther became the sole owner of Carter's welding shop. Farm repairs were a main priority. Most anything that needed repairing, Luther could fix it. He also thawed water pipes in the winter, which sometimes kept him out long hours in the bitter cold. Dad was always willing to help people at any time. Dad built a welder truck on a 1963 Ford with a boom on the front and toolboxes on the sides and everything needed to do repairs in the farmer's field. This truck was used until 2019 by son Eric, long after Luther was gone. Dad was an innovator. In the early 60s, Dad was asked to build and mount railroad units onto cars and trucks for railroad inspectors to go up and down the rails. Raleigh Jr. also helped Luther in the welding shop for several years, and Luther's youngest son, Eric, joined the shop in 1978 after college. Dad passed away February 23, 1991. He was at the shop nearly every day for 41 years. Martin Eric Carter was born January 10, 1955, and he began helping and learning in the shop as a young boy. Charlie Fry worked in the shop for years and was a wonderful teacher for Eric as well. Eric ran the welding shop after Dad's passing. Eric and his wife Diane had 2 daughters, Erica Lynn and Zoe Ann. They resided on Maple Street. Both Dad and Eric would walk to work most every day unless the weather was bad. Eric always had a helpful attitude and a smile. And as his ancestors, he always had time to take a short visit when people would stop by. My son Douglas also took an interest in the shop as a teenager. Grandpa Luther took lots of time teaching Doug. He loved machines like his grandpa. Later, Doug worked full-time for Dad and Eric around 1978. Eric wanted diversity in the business and learned to build beautiful wrought iron pieces. They built iron fences, gates, benches, and tables, and much more, railings and catwalks too. The beautiful benches, trash containers, and flower holders on Main Street of Plattsburgh were all built by Doug and Eric. At the same time, they kept the farmers running. Doug went on to be a precision machinist in Kansas City, and Eric ran the shop until July 2019, when his 6-year battle with cancer took his life. Eric was 64 years old, and this ended 69 years of a Carter family tradition of helping people in Plattsburgh. I started out in a small building on Locust Street and moved to up to Main Street in a small business building, and then moved to Eldon Norris's building across the street from the courthouse. But I was in his building, I think, 12 years. 14 years. I called it the Iron Dove because I had such a love for iron like my dad.